As is the duty of every Apple sheep, I saw a new Marques Brownlee iPhone video and I instantly clicked it to partake in my mandatory viewing. What happened next will shock you, but first a word from our sponsor, Not Shady VPN. Just kidding, no one would want to sponsor me. Now let's get back to the video. Before I start, I do want to preface that I do enjoy Brownlee's content, and I really appreciate the cinematography and all the other work he and his crew put in. That said, I'm a legacy jailbreak nerd, and I noticed a few inaccuracies in his reviewing every iPhone video. So let's get into reviewing every iPhone. To start with, we have to deal with the legendary iPhone 2G. I personally don't own one, but I've seen enough in my time to know when it's not running iPhone OS 1, or it flips randomly between being activated and inactivated between shots in the B-roll. That's continuity. This begs the question though, how hard would it be to make it accurate to its error? To put it simply, way too much effort for a minute section in a video with 30 plus other phones to film. They would need to set up a Windows XP VM, track down an adequately old iTunes, and then also spend an hour of time fiddling with it to restore. Needless to say, hella not worth it. Next, the 3G. Nothing much to say here because they actually did manage to get one on iPhone OS 2, although it is really easy to downgrade to almost any version that it ever ran. All you need is iReb or recovery mode tool to kick it into booting normally after you restore, which is a nice and fast process given how small the iPhone OS 2 and 3 IPSWs are. Then, the 3GS. Oh boy, this one is egregious. iPhone OS 3 with cut, copy, and paste, he says, while swiping on iOS 6. I'm crying, Marques, I'm crying. For this phone, there are two relatively easy procedures to downgrade to any version. Early production old bootrom 3GSs can use 24K PON IPSWs directly for an untethered downgrade, and later production new bootroms can use a combination of 24K PON and allocate for the same effect. Additionally, they can all really easily go down to 4.1 because that version is signed for compatibility with PowerPC Max. All in all, maybe not worth it for a short clip in a video, but still, it makes me very sad to see them make such a major error. iOS 6 is not iPhone OS 3. Now onto another one that makes me sad. The iPhone 4 on iOS 7. One word, powder snow. Literally just plug that phone into an Intel Mac, and with 15 minutes of your time, including restoring, you can have yourself one nice 2010 era appropriate iPhone 4. Another honorable mention for the 4 is that that poor little thing is very grimy. Marques, please get your crew some toothpicks and isopropyl and clean up that poor little phone. 7.8 out of 10. Too much grime in the ring switch. Next up, the 4S. Not much to say here other than, yeah, it's on iOS 9. Downgrading to 6, which looks almost the same as 5, would be super easy and super quick with iOS OTA downgrader, and it honestly would probably be reasonable for the minute's worth of content on the 4S, given how long they would have already spent digging out the charger, digging out the phone, and so on. And now, once again, we have to cry, as there appears to be a 5 that was running iOS 9 and was updated over the air to 10, as it still has the stock iOS 9 wallpaper. Though thankfully, we don't really have to cry too much, as the 5 is another easy to downgrade device, either untethered to 8.4.1, or to any version ever ran tethered with the power of Checkmate and Nightshade. Just overall a bit of a weird phone and a weird version, which we'll encounter again soon with the 5S. For some reason, they managed to find one on iOS 9? How? Why? Where? And most importantly, please send it to me, Marques. Just kidding. As we've crossed into 64-bit with this device, we exit the era where downgrades are easy or even possible, although the 5S and a couple other A7 devices are special in that they can go down to 10.3.3 thanks to iOS 7.0's bugs in updating beyond iOS 10. Speaking of iOS 10, Marques's 5C. He has the lovely neon green one, but I refer back to what I said about the 4. Please invest in some isopropyl. As for downgrading, we only really have Nightshade, which would probably be fast enough to be worth it for the video, and would take that phone back down to its original, very based version of iOS 7. Now, we return to 64-bit with the 6 series. In the video, there's a 6 Plus shown, which is running iOS 10 for some reason, which is pretty nice, but that isn't iOS 8 that it shipped with, unfortunately. Sure hope that the 6 Plus isn't one of the 128GB models, though, since those NAND chips do enjoy committing a bit of the capital D-I-E. 6 Plus out of 10. Send me this one too, Marques. Next up, the 6S. Currently downgrade these, and in the video, it's sitting on somewhere between iOS 12 and 14. Similarly, the other A9 device featured, the 2016 SE, is also somewhere between 12 and 14. And unfortunately, even if it were to be on 9, Apple sucks quite a bit and often fails to activate A9 devices on iOS 9 or just randomly deactivates them just to spite you. Small additional note about a factual error in this segment. No, the SE 2016 is not the oldest iOS 15 capable iPhone or iDevice. That would be the 6S that came out months before it if we're talking about iPhones. And if we want the oldest overall device that still has either iOS or iPadOS 15 support, we'd be looking at the iPad Air 2 that precedes even the 6S. We're running long, so now a bit of a speed round to close it out. None of the devices from here on out have any capable downgrades, and none of them are on their out-of-box version. 7 Plus is on 14, the 8 Plus is on somewhere between 12 and 14, the 10 is on 12, the 10S Max is on 13 somehow. Please send it to me, Marques. The 10R is on 13 or 14, the 11 is also on 14, SE 2020, 14 again, and lastly, the 12 series are only shown from the Brio, so we can't tell what they're running, but presumably 14 or 15. Phew. That was a mouthful, but now we get on to some fun and, well, confusing things. The graphs. Okay, so what exactly is wrong with the graphs? Well, everything. The size graph is confusing to say the least. For the 2007 iPhones, it does match what the script says. The iPhone 2G launched with 4GB storage options, and later a 16GB was added. But then, the 2009 column makes an error if the graph is meant to be showing release versions. The 3GS did not launch with an 8GB version. It only came in 16 or 32, with the 8GB releasing a year later in 2010 as a budget option. Following year, we get the exact same mistake. The 4 didn't launch with the 8GB model, with that being launched later as a budget option again. And we go through this a few more times where low capacity is marked on the graph in the year of the phone itself releasing, despite being released in the following year as a budget option. Once we hit 2017 though, it's all correct and we're smooth sailing. The next error is probably just a time constraint. Marques says it would not be possible to use Geekbench or another benchmark to compare all these devices to one another. Marques has not, however, heard the story of Darth IPG the Wise. It's not a story the Apple tubers would tell you, it's a legacy jailbreak legend. To cut to the point though, you can in fact find legacy versions of Geekbench for versions as old as iPhone OS 3 from what I can find, if you know where to look and then run these benchmarks and get the points value to do a benchmark comparison. To close out, I would like to reiterate my opening point that I do enjoy Brownlee's content, and this whole video is just a bit of fun. Only a nerd like me would dedicate the time to making everything look era appropriate and be running the right versions and do the research to make sure that I am doing that, just like I did for this video. But did Marques Brownlee make an entertaining video in spite of maybe a little bit of inaccuracies? Hell yeah, he did. Did I have fun picking it apart then and nerding out over old iPhones? Also yes. And hopefully you had fun watching me be a nitpicking asshole. Thanks for watching and bye-bye.